for having me on my 123 cents. I've been pining to get on this show for a while now, and I'm glad that you've given me the opportunity, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Now, with that being said, Chikara's comeback, it has been very emotional, and it's very happy. It's filled me with such joy, because, you see, that was one of the first companies to really take a shine to my work when I started here in the States.
And tell me a little bit about that. How did you get involved in wrestling? You are dubbed the world's sweetest man, and you are very dapper with your derby there and your bow tie and your monocle. And I've had the honor of meeting you. Yeah, I've had the honor of meeting you before too. So, kind of tell me and tell our viewers how Jervis Cottonbelly got into professional wrestling.
Well, to be straight with you, I came here in I guess it was 2005 is when I started performing for Chikara. I've been a fan all of my life. All of my life. I wanted to grapple, to put on an exhibition. And one of my favorite grapplers growing up was Johnny Singh. He was very clean and proper and quick, but he was clever. So I thought, now I'm a very sweet man. I'm not going to mince any words there. I'm a very sweet, kind person, but my goal when I got into wrestling was to see if I could beat my opponents by hurting them as little as possible. So I attempt to win my matches with clever trickery and neck dueling. Now, every once in a while, when you wrestle someone like Jacker or Elneg the Usurper, you need to get a bit savage. So, all in all, I'd say that what brought me to the States to wrestle was I needed to learn more technique. And I knew that Matt Quackenbush was the master of 1,000 holds. And I also knew that through Johnny Singh, and Johnny Kidd as well, because Quack is a very close friend with those two. And if you're not familiar with either man, I highly suggest Googling them. Again, that's Johnny Singh and Johnny Kidd. They were world of sport performers. Now, I knew that Mr. Quackenbush had studied their work, and he came highly recommended by them. And a few other Europeans had made the jump to the States. So I figured I'd try my luck and come to the States to learn more. And that's exactly what I've done, and I've never looked back.
Now, Chikara, for folks who may not have ever seen it before, and I still consider myself a new fan to Chikara. I've been watching wrestling for about 30 years, but Chikara I've only really been watching pretty closely for the last probably 2 or 3 years. So what is it about Chikara that fans seem to take to? It does have a very great cast of characters, if you will, yourself included in that bunch. What is it about Chikara that sets it apart from, say, WWE, TNA, or even Ring of Honor?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Kevin. I think what sets Chikara apart, most of all from, the big league, is that Chikara has a level of intimacy attached to it that cannot be reached at the mainstream level. Now, I've used this example before, but a lot of what we learn at Chikara is to put the audience first, no matter what. The live, in-person audience. Then comes the camera, and of course then comes, serving whatever need you may need to serve for yourself in the ring. So in the big leagues, again, they work the camera. They look to the audience at home every time, they're going to do a move or perform something. But we like to work the crowd, because they're what the crowds and the fans are what keep us in business, you see. And therefore, we can reach a level of intimacy and interaction with the fans at the independent level that cannot be reached in a big arena or a stadium of sorts. Now, that's not to say that the big leagues of wrestling aren't just as fun, because they have their benefits as well. But I think that the level of interaction and fan interaction is really what makes Chikara stand out.
And I think that you hit the nail right on the head. When you go to a Chikara show, during intermission or even after a wrestler's match, they are with the crowd. They're doing meet and greets. They're signing autographs. They're taking photographs. And, they're just accessible to the fans, and I think that's why that connection is possible. So thank you for that.
I thank you, my friend. Thank you, and to all the fans who come to our shows. Thank you kindly. Because when we drive 16 hours to, say, Carbondale, Illinois, and, we've been on the road and we're weary and we're tired, after our match, speaking with the fans is what reminds us, oh, this is why I came. It's validation, and it shows that when we're able to interact, I cannot tell you the joy that the children bring me, especially when they admire, a performance, or when they want to shake my hand and say hello. It just fills my heart. And I say that while sometimes I see our fans and friends smiling, the smile is even bigger on this side. It's a two-way street. As much as we love the fans, as much as the fans love us, we love the fans even more.
Well, I like to hear that. Now, tell me about back on Pro Wrestling Day and kind of leading up now to the resurgence of Chikara coming up in May. Dr. Cube and his minions, if you will, had something going on, and a lot of fans wondered if Chikara would ever be back. So how did we get to this point where Chikara will in fact be back, and what are you looking most forward to with the return of Chikara?
Does my bow tie look okay?
It looks great. I need to get some lessons on tying a bow tie from you, by the way.
Well, believe it or not, this is a clip-on.
Oh, okay. That should be my strategy, I think.
Yes, I was hurried in my attire, my dressing today. But anyway, to your question, I think that part of what with Chikara, when it shut down, a lot of people lost hope, and a lot of people lost faith. Now, professional wrestling, it's always taught people and fans that a lot of stories don't necessarily get finished or answered. Or, there are plot holes and there are things that, that may never be answered properly. An example that I like to use, and I hate to call this into question, but do you remember are you a fan of the WWE?
I am, sir.
Do you remember the anonymous general manager?
I do.
No, that was a story that ran for years, I believe. It was over a year at least.
Yes.
And the story ran for so long, you almost figured out about halfway through that there is no anonymous general manager. It's just that they haven't selected one yet. You understood that there was no consistency.
Right.
And oftentimes with live television, that's part of the casualty of running every week live and having a timed run sheet. And, when we're at the independent level, though, and with Chikara, we're able to tell a story that, how do I say this, that goes beyond what a large company can do. Because, again, that level of intimacy is key. And anyway, at Chikara, it was a lot of fans lost hope because they thought that the company had closed and there would never be an answer, and there were still questions, and so many questions. But what they don't realize is this, and this it may be new to you as well. Chikara is one long running narrative, you see. So I believe it was the Tag World Grand Prix in 2005 when this narrative officially began. But it's one long story, if you will, such as Batman or Spider-Man, Their comic has run since the 30s or the 60s, conversely, and the story has always evolved and changed, but there's always been callbacks to the original content. Now, occasionally there are reboots and other such things, but Chikara is one long-running story. So it was very frustrating, when Chikara closed down, to see people losing hope and faith, because there's no such thing as a plot hole in the Chikara universe. If a question is left unanswered, it will be answered. And it's meant to be left unanswered. If a character, shows up and he doesn't have a name, that's not by mistake. That's by design. So I think that the important thing to remember is that through all of this confusion, the company's closing, and all of the other things that we've seen out of Chikara and Wrestling Is and Dr. Cube, and all of the assorted characters and players in the part. And I think that the important thing to keep in mind is that it will all certainly be worth it, and everything has been done with the fans in mind.
And I think that's another reason why fans are able to connect, and they're not just being spoon-fed something. They're actually putting some thought into this, as well as the performers and the people who bring Chikara to DVDs and to the online services that are available. Now, do you ever anticipate, or do you ever think it would be a good idea if Chikara were to land a television deal where it became a weekly episodic program like Monday Night Raw? Is that a good thing or a bad thing for Chikara?
You know, it's interesting that you mention that. I have a few schools of thought on that topic, but one thing to keep in mind is this. And you should look at the WWE network for an example, but the way that we consume media is changing. It's always evolved, and it's always changed. And, you know, people used to think that the Holy Grail was a primetime TV slot or an episode every Friday night on your local access channel. But in truth, the future will be streaming. Media will stream, you will consume media on your own terms and your own time. Now, that's not to say that a live television deal wouldn't be quite amazing. But one of the beautiful things about Chikara is this. Each performer has their own artistic, their own ability to express themselves artistically. You see, if I'm going to wrestle a match against, let's say, I don't know, my friend, the Thunder Frog, that match is between the Thunder Frog and myself. It is not between, you know, various road agents or people who want to chime in and give their input as well. That match happens between Frog and I, and it is a display that we put on, and it's an artistic expression that we would like to, you know, that's how we express ourselves. And we have the freedom to do that. And a lot of times, you know, when a big company comes in and gives you a lot of money and puts you on television, they like to also chime in with their ideas or with their expertise, you know. And I think that it's important with Chikara that we all grow independently while remaining a cohesive unit.